Hey everybody, and when it comes to animation, it's quite a unique and ambitious art form, advancing constantly ever since its inception. But if you ask me, I don't think anything can better describe that than the 1990s. As so much has happened throughout these small 10 years, it would be impossible to list everything here, as I mainly want to focus on the more notable contributions to this decade. Let's start with the elephant in the room, the Disney Renaissance. Technically beginning in 1989 with The Little Mermaid, a year later they released The Rescuers Down Under, which is the first animated feature film to be fully produced on computer software, that being Pixar's computer animation production system, or simply CAPS. Thanks to this advancement, it helped Disney save money when producing films, even allowing simultaneous hand-drawn animation and CGI on screen. Whilst the film itself was just whatever, it at least helped shape the future of producing animation today. Afterwards came Beauty and the Beast. Whilst the Renaissance started with The Little Mermaid and Rescuers Down Under, it may as well have started here. The film has dazzling animation, amazing music, lovable characters, Gaston, and that ballroom sequence will never not impress me. This is even the first of 3 animated films to ever be nominated for the Academy Award of Best Picture, one of cinema's highest honors. But this was only the start. Their next film, Aladdin, was even better. Once again, having everything great about Beauty and the Beast, with the animation, music, characters, cool villain, and Robin Williams as the genie being one of the greatest voice performances I ever heard in an animated film. And just the fact this film is so funny at times. And as a result, Aladdin took a great twist on the Disney formula. But then comes The Lion King, which has perfected the Disney formula. Once again, it has stunning and timeless animation, a phenomenal soundtrack and musical numbers, some of Disney's greatest characters, the jaw-dropping opening sequence, and that the stampede with Mufasa's death is still one of the most chilling moments in cinema history. If you ask me, I don't think there's a Disney film before or after that could possibly top this film. It's that good. What's more impressive is that this was a side project for Disney, as their A-team back then were working hard on Pocahontas, which came out to a resounding "it could have been worse." But the rest were once again well received, with some developing strong followings in recent years. But I personally don't think they hold a candle to these 3. During the Renaissance, Pixar were about to change the animation industry forever, as in 1995, they released the first feature-length computer-animated film, Toy Story. This film was a game-changer enhanced by its likable characters, humor, and charming story, even winning an Oscar for its ambition. Pixar would become an animation mainstay as a result, and even released 2 more films this decade with A Bug's Life and a sequel for Toy Story, both releasing to critical and commercial success. Another surprise hitter for Disney came from Henry Selick's Nightmare Before Christmas, with some of the best aesthetics I've ever seen in an animated film, gorgeous stop-motion animation, wondrous musical numbers, and vivid character designs. Because of these, Nightmare Before Christmas is an animated modern classic, and it hasn't aged a single day. And with Disney's immense success came inevitable competition from other studios. And spoiler alert, they flopped. A lot of these were from studios who thought that they'd make a quick buck like Disney, but obviously lacked in some places or another. With the likes of Thumbelina, Cool World, the Tom and Jerry movie, Rock-a-Doodle, The Pebble and the Penguin, The King and I, Quest for Camelot, The Magic Voyage, A Troll in Central Park. Were they wanting these movies to fail? But that didn't mean there weren't any good movies. Warner Bros.' The Iron Giant is considered a classic, despite its box office performance, even having hybrid animation with the giant himself using CGI, and how lovable the giant is in general. And it's directed by Brett Bird, who would go on to direct The Incredibles and Ratatouille for Pixar, so you know it's good. Another film by Warner Bros., Space Jam, which had NBA legend Michael Jordan play basketball alongside the Looney Tunes based on the popular Nike commercials. Despite being a box office smash, the film was not well received by critics, mainly for its bizarre concept. Oh, how little did we know. But didn't stop it from developing a fan following. Whilst the film is terrible from a critical perspective, it's oddly entertaining because of this. It's essentially the room of animated movies. In 1994, after the unfortunate passing of then Disney President and Chief Operating Officer Frank Wells, then CEO Michael Eisner fired Jeffrey Katzenberg from Disney, which led him to form a studio called DreamWorks alongside Steven Spielberg and David Jevin in 1994, with Katzenberg leading the animation department, and released Ant and the Prince of Egypt in 1998, weeks apart from each other, both releasing to critical and commercial success, which was rare for Disney competitors at the time. Whilst Ant nowadays has a consensus of, it was okay I guess, Prince of Egypt is beloved by many and is even considered to be DreamWorks' greatest film to date. If that's not a good first impression for a studio founded on spite, I don't know what is. Not only were animated films becoming more ambitious, so was general cinema, and during this decade we saw more films use CGI elements, with the crowning achievement easily being Jurassic Park, with CGI bringing the dinosaurs to life, and the effects still look impressive to this day, and is probably the best use of CGI in a live-action film. Away from cinema came the small screen at home, as televised animation truly got its footing this decade. As with adult animation, The Simpsons truly started to take off this decade, and later on, I don't know what happened here. We later saw the likes of Beavis and Butthead, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, King of the Hill, South Park, Family Guy, and Futurama, each standing out from one another and becoming highly popular, with South Park and Beavis and Butthead having movies released in cinemas this decade. During this time, we also saw series from the 80s like DuckTales and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles increasing in popularity, and new animations emerging too, with Nickelodeon kicking out their Nicktoons with the highly popular comfort food that was Rugrats, the Ren and Stimpy show which pushed the boundaries for what you could get away with in a kids show, and Dog. More followed later on with the likes of Rocko's Modern Life, Hey Arnold, Cat Dog, a whole abundance of classic Shupo content, and at the tail end of the decade, Nickelodeon's greatest cash cow, Spongebob Squarepants, having a strong start with episodes like Pizza Delivery and SB129 and 99 alone. Fox Kids was another growingly popular example, with Tiny Toon Adventures, the lovable Animaniacs alongside Pinky and the Brain. And how could I forget Batman the Animated Series? Such an excellent action superhero series with its film noir aesthetics, dark tone compared to other cartoons at the time, and Mark Hamill voicing an incredible Joker. This wasn't the only superhero animated series in town back then, as there were Superman, the X-Men, Spider-Man, and even Batman himself having a follow-up series later on with Batman Beyond. There was no shortage of Caped Crusaders during this decade. Whilst in 1992, Cartoon Network first kicked off whilst originally a safe haven for Golden Age cartoons in Hanna-Barbera, it really started to get going later on thanks to What a Cartoon, which aired many experimental shorts by animators, with some becoming full-on series on Cartoon Network, with Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory, the Powerpuff Girls, Cow and Chicken, and Courage the Cowardly Dog to name a few. Heck, the Courage pilot was nominated for an Oscar. Whereas it also helped kickstart careers for other animators like Seth MacFarlane and Butch Hartman. More series in a similar style would follow in the future, even inspiring other animators and series. Even Disney themselves had their fair share of animated series, with the Disney Afternoon including Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, and last but definitely not least Gargoyles. Granted, their lineup might not be as strong as their films, but were still worthwhile regardless. Meanwhile, over here in Britain, Aardman was in full steam this decade, particularly with their Wallace and Gromit shorts, with the wrong trousers and a close shave. Both phenomenal and entertaining shorts, which both won Oscars, and I have to admit, the train climax and wrong trousers will never get old. But for the anime scene, it was a goldmine of content, with some of the most iconic in the industry, with Sailor Moon, Ghost in the Shell, Yu Yu Hakusho, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and End of Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, and Dragon Ball Z started to catch popularity here, and some of Studio Ghibli's greatest work, especially Princess Mononoke, and even long-lasting series like Pokemon and One Piece got their start here. Whereas the video games industry began to become more ambitious with animation, with games like Clay Fighter using digitized stop motion, Mortal Kombat's more rotoscoped approach, Aladdin and Lion King using digitized hand-drawn animation from the original film's animators, and Donkey Kong Country being one of the first home video games to use 3D render graphics from the same computers that made Jurassic Park, and just that most of the games back then in general still have pretty gorgeous art styles. But things really got going with CD-ROM's inception, thanks to consoles like the Mega CD and PS1, with newer hardware introducing more three-dimensional, although dated visuals. With a bigger storage capacity, it allowed games to be bigger and even having some animated cutscenes, both traditional and CGI. Whereas some games still had a 2D aesthetic, but took advantage of the new hardware like Klonoa and Castlevania Symphony of the Night, resulting into nice looking art styles. And even video game adaptations around this time had a certain quality like Sonic.am, Earthworm Jim, the Street Fighter II movie, and Donkey Kong Country. What? Just when the decade was about to end in preparation for the new millennium, Disney released a follow-up to Walt Disney's masterpiece, Fantasia 2000. This film, just like its predecessor, uses multiple animated segments set to classical music. Plus, a Sorcerer's Apprentice segment from the original is here. This was also the first animated film to be released on IMAX. Whilst the original is superior, this may have ended the decade and even century of animation on a very high note. So in conclusion, what the 80s did to movies, the 90s did to animation. With how much came out throughout these 10 years, it felt like the stars all aligned. And with that, I don't think there'll be a decade quite like the 90s ever again. So, what was your favorite decade of animation? And if so, what made it so strong? Feel free to let me know down below. And with that, thanks for watching.